Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you at this moment in time?
In time and space, or just time?
Just time.
I can't equate it to space, so that's off the table. Time-wise, I'm doing very linear.
Okay, good. Good. That's what we expect.
That's what we need.
That's what we expect.
That's what we expect and need. What about yourself? How are you doing space-wise?
Protruding?
What was that? Protruding?
Yep.
Unlike a drowsy street, they're very narrow, I hear. I haven't been myself. Hey, with Babylon 5, with B5, I'm not a expert on this side of the nerdy crap, but where is, like, the drowsy homeworld and the Mbryo Prime and, like, Minbar and all of that in relation to the actual...
Station?
No, in relation to our actual universe. Like, do we know, or are they just in that nebulous sci-fi land where it's like, it's in space, it's somewhere? Because we know where Centauri Prime is, we know that.
Yeah.
Because of real world, like, science and stuff, and we just know, but, like...
I think they've left enough clues that you could kind of roughly figure it out, I think. Like, we know that most of them have, like, a single sun,
Sure,
but maybe multiple moons. We know who's neighbors with who, but
there's jump gates, so it opens up the scale. But I just wanted to ask, Rachel, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about drowsy solar systems and wherever the hell they are.
If people tuned in for our discussions on The Expanse, you clicked on the wrong episode, because that's not what you're going to get here. That's not what you're going to get here. You are going to get Babylon 5 talk. And we've watched this show multiple times. Ryan, even more than me. And we go hard into spoilers. We are quite deep into season 5, which is the last season, so there's not a whole lot left to spoil.
Oh, but Rachel, I could spoil things that happen in the Lost Tales, and you haven't seen those tales and how they're lost. Question for you. So, for everyone out there listening who we call Yumlings, you most likely have listened to previous episodes, and if not, welcome, congratulations. You have found us at a rather particularly interesting episode of the series to tune in. But for you, what is a show that you would say you have rewatched the most? What is the one that you go back to the most? Like Babylon 5 and a bunch of Star Treks are my answers for that. But for yourself, what is the series or the show in particular that you would say Rachel has gone back to that well quite a bit?
Gilmore Girls.
But that won't happen again.
No.
Because they ruined it for you.
Yes.
What about House? Were you a big House watcher? I know you you watched House, but did you ever rewatch House?
Yes, I did. But I think Gilmore Girls beat it out just a little bit.
Gilmore Girls beat it out because of just Rory is such a worthy character of seeing again, right?
No, it's because I watched it with my mum as well.
Who would Rory be in a relationship with in House? What person in House would she shack up with?
Probably Chase.
Who's the guy? Who's that shitty guy? Welcome to our sci-fi podcast where we're rewatching episodes of sci-fi. Now let's talk about House MD, the most fucking outlandish show of all time. Who's that shitty doctor guy who's just like a schlubby-looking guy who keeps having affairs against his wife? Isn't there like a really shitty dude?
Against his wife?
Yeah.
I believe his name is Torb.
Yeah, she would be with Torb, in my opinion, because she also chooses shitty guys, Rory.
I said Chase because he reminds me a bit of Tristan in terms of looks.
Oh, right. Is Torb perhaps the Rory of House, in which they shouldn't be that shitty, but they really are that shitty?
No, because he acknowledges that he's shitty.
Ah, so it was a step up from Rory.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Rory. This is an anti-Rory podcast. Welcome. But let's get into the meat of the matter. YumYumPodcast is the name because of Star Trek Discovery, a series near and dear to our hearts. And being fans of science fiction, we like to look at those little strange moments that happen, because in every sci-fi show, it's not just Discovery, Babylon 5, even in this episode, have those particular moments that make you tilt your head to the side and squint and say, why was that there? Why did they put that line of dialogue? Why did the character do that little thing? Was that just meant to be a joke, or is that supposed to be funny? What's going on? And Yum Yum was that in Star Trek Discovery, and we celebrate that moment every single episode of our podcast with the name, our rating system. We even examine within episodes of the series we go through who would have said Yum Yum, or who had Yum Yum energy, all of that crazy stuff. But let's hear what episode we are discussing of Babylon 5. Let's cut through the meat right to the bone. That is the DVD description. Now, Rachel, do you remember what episode we watched? Do you know the title of this episode?
Ragged Edge?
The Ragged Edge. But do you know what number it is? Do you know how far through we are currently in the season?
No.
This is episode 12. 12 of 22,
okay.
so we have 10 left.
I knew that we were deep into the season. I did say that, but I was like, I don't know how far, because I chickened out of saying halfway.
Your chicken, bark, 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 chicken, chicken noises. Now, this is what it has to go through on the DVD description, most likely written by Joe Michael Straczynski. The unauthorized publication of Jakar's secret books makes him a revered demigod among the Narn. Meanwhile, Rachel? Meanwhile,
I know.
New evidence suggests a Centauri link to the attacks on Alliance shipping.
It does answer a lot of questions.
Except this one. Why? What do the Centauri have to gain by these attacks?
They're dividing the Alliance, making the members suspect each other, divide and conquer.
Oh, except the Centauri need the Alliance as much as anyone else.
The Ragged Edge, a very tantalizing title. It gets the mind racing. What could it be? What is the Ragged Edge?
Secretly a Garibaldi episode, that's what it is.
Oh, and a Jakar episode too, of course. And it's a Ragged Edge of we're in a transitionary period from the first half of the season to that second half. We dealt with all of the Byron telepath colony stuff, and now we're leaning in on the more galactic scale events. But you just said it. This is a Garibaldi episode, and this is something I want to say about Garibaldi in terms of his episodes.
His episodes are shit.
Not that.
We have said that before.
But his ones are deeply personal and small-scale stories. So when he is embroiled in something bigger than himself, they still manage to ground it back to a kind of a boots-on-the-ground approach.
Yeah, it is personal.
While
it's personal.
It's personal, but this is dealing with the breadcrumbs, I guess, the stepping stones to a galactic conspiracy that is most likely going to break out into war. And we look at it through the lens of Mr. Garibaldi, and I do appreciate that method to it. And I'm leading all of this in here to really get a grip on who could have said Yum Yum in the Ragged Edge. There's a lot of contenders. Londo!
Londo is my confident pick because he is so full of sass. He is serving Jakar banter after banter, like quip after quip after quip. He would have said Yum Yum.
He would have said it after he threw the book back at Jakar, slid it across and said, I'll wait, as Mr. Garibaldi said, I'll wait for the movie to come out, whatever the line is. Jakar is a phenomenal pick. I mean, not Jakar. Londo is a phenomenal pick. Jakar is too spiritual, but I lean towards Anan, Talon.
Yes. Talon is a very excellent choice. But, like, Londo is just so obvious that I had to go with him.
Can I lay down some respect to people who would have said Yum Yum, but they are only one-off characters, guest stars? Because Talon and Londo we will lean to more because we know that they have the ability to say it frequently because they are in the show. But Tafik and the pilot who witnessed the attack...
Yeah, they were pretty yummy.
They were yum up to a different level, but it's hard for them to beat the two that we've already selected. But I wanted to respect their names as guest characters because that's an element too, is they're just one-offs, and the Yum Yum moment was just a one-off thing that happened. It was completely chaotic and out of the blue. Well, if Londo said it at this point, it wouldn't be out of the blue. It wouldn't be unexpected if it came out of his mouth. It would feel natural. And I know we'll leave this to another time, but I think Londo and Jakar, both of them, are in the top spots to realistically at some point in this series say Yum Yum. Out of all of them, they're probably the two that realistically would have said it at some point. While Tafik, come on, this guy's coming in and he's just really chewing up the scenery. The Ragged Edge. What is your opinion on this episode? You did say that Garibaldi ones tend to be a bit shit. Is that how you feel about this one?
It's not great. It is not the worst Garibaldi episode, though. That is far behind us. It still haunts me. It is an episode where I'm like, that's a whole episode, isn't it? What? Because we've got the Jakar stuff, we've got the Garibaldi stuff, and we've got a couple of other things that are just sort of in the background, almost, that are also like getting a little bit of time to nudge them along. Like, obviously the whole shipping line stuff that ties into Garibaldi's plot, and Sheridan hating paperwork. Franklin leaving. And I feel like there's something else as well that's like just touched upon, but
oh, of course. You've got just the Centauri being involved, and
yeah.
it's all here. Jakar not wanting to accept his leadership role in the way that it is, and threatening to leave.
Yeah, and obviously Garibaldi's alcoholism, that's threading through as well. And if I feel like it's a sort of callback. Even the Drazi throwing up in the transport, I feel like they've made a joke about them not being a very good space-faring race before.
They've made them jokes in the series a lot. And this season, we've been noting that they've come up a lot, which is important. I've never been particularly fussed about this episode either. It does the job. It does it well, but it doesn't do it spectacular.
It's not memorable.
The Jakar stuff is memorable. It has the him closing the book on the guy's face. That's memorable. Talon is here.
But like as an episode.
No, it has bits, but as an episode, it just kind of is a blur overall. And that happens from time to time in a show. And it's not to say that this doesn't have things of worth. It clearly does, and we will talk about it. But as its own thing, it kind of reminds me of The Expanse in a lot of ways. We have been going through The Expanse on our Patreon, and there are some episodes of that show that have that level of precision to it. But when you sit back after it's done, it's not leaving as big of a mark on you with some episodes. Like this one in particular for B5, The Ragged Edge is Here, it's very important in retrospect, though. One of the things that I found the most profound on this watch through is, and I don't know if you got this yourself, we haven't discussed this isn't in our notes, but this is the first episode in the season, to me, that's really put the line in the sand of saying the show's over. It's wrapping up. We are moving the pieces.
Whole episode that feels like that, because we've had lots of lines here and there, so it's not a surprise. But I agree, it's the first episode that feels like the end is coming. We're wrapping up soon, people.
It's a point of no return. The characters are entering their final act, and people along the way are going to, over the course of this episode and the several going forward, are going to be put in the place that they're going to finish in. And that adds a little bit of potency to this, rather than if it was just a Garibaldi running around Jazi punching people episode. There is an underpinning of this, I guess, melancholy, bittersweet sadness of the show is aware, as are we, that these are the final adventures we'll see of these people. This is their twilight years in terms of us viewing the show, and I appreciated it on that wavelength more than it as its own thing. And I don't think that isn't deliberate. That is put in there. There's slow scenes. There's moments of just the characters and the actors portraying them just sitting in the set without needing to be so emphasized on plot. The beginning of this it's a
gentle episode.
It's a gentle episode, even though it is saying that things are going to go very badly soon. We started with Sheridan going through all of the paperwork. Oh, paperwork. It sucks. It's awful. It's bad.
Dylan joking about declaring war on Earth.
And he'll sign the paperwork for it. Just give it to me. And although that is him trying to micromanage and get through all of the strenuous stuff happening with the Interstellar Alliance possibly breaking apart and going out into war, it's played with this level of not just levity, but I don't know, there's just a serene quality to it. Just seeing Delenn and Jean just stand there, just be there. There's something...
Acceptance of, okay, this is the state of things. What do we do next?
And they're setting up the plot of the episode, that we are now moved beyond Byron. There's no mention of Byron or any of the telepath colony stuff in this at all. There's not even a sense that this is them reeling back from such an event. It is, we are now on the other plot, which is the shipping lines, and that they are being attacked. Who are attacking these shipping lines? Well, thankfully, a pilot has managed to witness this firsthand. They managed to escape, and we need to get them. That's the mission. That's the layout of this. And I just want to get your thoughts on this, Rachel.
It's straightforward enough. Like, it feels odd to have a episode where the plot is this character goes to another world, because it's been a little while since we've had one of those, and all of the previous ones have been field trips to Mars. So it's like, ooh, they're going somewhere else?
They're making their way to a planet of a race that we know so well, but we don't know them really that well. We know them as
their
antagonistic.
Faces, but we don't know their culture.
And what we do know is silly and angry and aggressive.
Look around. The Drazi were originally an outdoor race. They came indoors only when necessary, so their rooms were small, the balconies large. Now they live indoors like the rest of us, but the architecture remains. Your shirt buttons from the left, but a woman's blouse buttons from the right, because servants used to dress them. The servants are gone, but the style remains.
The Drazi started out as a joke. They were the green and purple guys. They even have that in this episode where the police are wearing green-purple colors. They're both wearing both colors. And how are you going on this particular watch through with the Drazi and how they become not just a joke, but they become more of a relevant faction in the show? Because especially in season 5, they've been pushed forward a lot, and they've been the instigators of a lot of trouble for the Interstellar Alliance. How do you feel about the Drazi overall?
The development of the Drazi always kind of creeps up on me. And I'm like, oh, that's right. That's right. They do this and they do that. And, oh my God, yeah, they're behind that as well. And I'm always like, you're just dumb shits.
They're dumb shits that have a point sometimes, and then sometimes they are just aggravating. I like them a lot. I like their design, of course, and I like what their ships look like. I like what their planet is like. I like the description of it as well as what we are shown. But the Drazi,
I think they're delightful.
oh yeah, and they're dumbasses.
Mm-hmm.
Complete buffoons, but not in a way where they're a joke race anymore. Like, they started out as a joke race. Like, they were there for a gag.
Evolved.
They have become defined. They feel not necessarily real, but they feel as if they do belong in the world that we have been living in with this show. When the Drazi threaten things, or when the Drazi have a nefarious plan, or when the Drazi are helping, because they also do help in this show. They've done noble things across the series as well. They're not idiots.
They're not just one thing. And they're probably the League of Non-Aligned Worlds race that gets that the most.
They get the most development, and they come across as the strongest.
Because the Centauri get that, and the Narn get that, the Mbryo get that, the humans get that. But the Drazi don't have a stake at that main table, and they still manage to get it.
They are the member of the League of Non-Aligned Worlds that the show prioritizes.
They were really the face of the League.
Oh, I would say they're the face of the League, of course. They're the ones that I associate with the League. Them and the Brakiri and the game, of course. But the Brakiri outside of Day of the Dead really don't get much development as a culture. What's their values? I don't know. And the game, they're just cool. You know, they just look cool, and they're kind
aesthetic.
and they're kind of cowards. We know that too. The Drazi, there is multiple facets to them, and even in this episode where they're in fight scenes, they're running around, we get the sense in the episode that there's a multitude of things going on with the Drazi. They're not just being shitty dudes, they're being crap, but they're not just being the shitty guys. They're also trying to figure out what's going on. But they have to stop Garibaldi. Like, they're a wrench in the plan for the Interstellar Alliance in a way that has been consistent throughout the season thus far. And
it's the issue of people trying to work in a collective, but people still using the old values. The Drazi is still working for themselves. They have not fully committed to the Alliance, which is absolutely fair. It's a brand new thing, and it's really, really unstable at the moment. So them being like, we are going to continue doing these other things, but in the way where we don't get caught for it. It's just like, oh, you made these things illegal, but they're profitable? Okay, we're going to figure out a way to do it still.
Drunk again, Uncle Mike? I wish she was here in the show to say that to him again, because Garibaldi's drunk. He's back into his habit. He's relapsed. And they are really making sure to get a story out of this because it's been set up since the beginning of the show. And to its credit, they've touched it a couple of times, but really, it's just been in the background. Garibaldi is a recovering alcoholic. It answers a lot of things about his personality, but they waited till the end of the show to pull the trigger on this and actually commit to him relapsing. This isn't Survivors, in which he just had one episode relapse and kind of felt bad about it, then we moved on. This is the rest of the show. This is the rest of the show, and I commend it greatly for doing it, because I find Garibaldi, although this episode isn't my favorite and it is central around him, this story arc is probably the one I feel the most sympathetic towards him as a character. I think Jerry Doyle in this episode is fantastic, by the way. I think he's so good in this episode, in spite of how I feel about the character and the story. I thought his acting was great, from, him being hazy and drunk and stumbling through to him having to put on a face of being sober and with it and coming up with all of these excuses for why he wants to do things in a certain way. That, Jerry Doyle just really rose to the occasion. And I felt bad for Garibaldi during this. And not only did I feel bad, but I felt pissed off by him too. Like I
didn't feel bad for him. I'm like, people are reaching out to you. People are being suspicious of you. Sheridan looks really pissed when he's like, no, I don't want Franklin with me. What the fuck are you doing? And obviously, like, Franklin's like, are we good? And everybody at the end is just like, wow, you really fucked this up.
Yeah.
And he's indignant about the fact that he's fucked everybody over.
Because he's fucking himself over.
Mm-hmm.
It's self-destruction.
Yep. And I'm just like, you have all of these people here that care about you and that are trying to help. And you don't want their help because you're trying to get control. And you don't have that control. That is an illusion. And you cannot get revenge. Oh my, get some therapy, deal with it.
No, he can't. This is him running away, though. He can't do control. He can't maintain himself anymore. He can't get the revenge he seeks, and so he's destroying himself, and he's running away from his responsibilities.
And his problem, like the problem of Bester.
And he's running away from the problem of admitting he has a problem. Because all of this stuff that you mentioned is in part because he thinks he can handle it. I can handle it. I'm in control. I can just take a drink. It'll be fine. And then it isn't fine. Of course not.
He has always been like that, of like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. That's why I don't touch the stuff. He doesn't seem to acknowledge that every day in recovery is a choice, and you choose to stay sober.
At least he doesn't recognize it now. He has in other episodes when Franklin was going through his crisis and so many other times, but he is in this mode
like,
that we see happen with many real life addicts and alcoholics, in which they've gone through the steps.
But I can do it now. So I've been in recovery for a while. I've stayed sober. I know I can do it. So I can drink now and it's safe. Or like that might be a part of it, or it might just be like, well, everything's fucking trash, so I might as well get drunk.
I think it's both. And I do feel sorry for him, but I want to emphasize too, he makes me annoyed. Like, I get so frustrated with him. I want to grab him by the shoulders and say, don't fuck this up for everyone. And this is a testament to the show. This is the show doing what Babylon 5 always does. It's a tapestry. We've had this woven throughout the series, not just his alcoholism, but everything we've just discussed and could discuss even more when it comes to his tendency for self-destruction and running away and retreating and obfuscating and being prickly and denying help and being paranoid. We had a whole season 4, in which he got fucked over in the brain because Garibaldi had all of his positive attributes muted and his negative ones heightened. And it's not just Garibaldi. We see Franklin and we see even Lockley in the background of this season, people who have gone through addiction problems, and they go through the same mentality or similar type of thing. And so in our brains, we can believe that this arc of the story is happening, not just because it would be juicy for drama.
Michael, if you ever got a problem, anything at all you want to talk about, you know where to find me, don't you?
I hear you. See ya.
Franklin knows, hence he reached out to him. He knows that he wasn't allowed to come on the mission for something more than what Garibaldi was saying, and he wasn't, and it's clear from Richard Biggs' performance and the script that it's not just Franklin thinking we're not friends anymore. He knows that Garibaldi is going through something. If you need me, I'm here to talk. He's being delicate with it, as Garibaldi was with him, but not everyone works the same way, and Franklin needed more of a push, right, for himself too. So it's not just people are ignoring it, but it's just like with real life. You know that something bad is happening.
They don't want to spook him.
How do you talk about it? That's one of the toughest things about addictions, is for the people who are not the ones suffering through it, but they are the bystanders. It can be really, really, like, you may not even know how to help, how to do anything. And Franklin, he's someone who's gone through this himself, but that doesn't mean he knows how. In fact, when Franklin was in the roughest times of his recovery process, Garibaldi was unsure if he did the right thing in terms of helping him, because it's not, it's a really, really awkward and delicate and tricky thing to navigate through. And Garibaldi, he's going through it himself right now, in which he knows better. He knows better deep down, but knowing and doing are different things. And in our lives, we all go through this in some way, shape, or form. Like, we do bad things knowing that we shouldn't, but
Denial. The denial can be strong.
Ignorance is bliss. And I did feel for Garibaldi because the show has set it up so nicely. If this was not because Garibaldi, we don't like him much as a character. No. We're not his biggest fans, but this does not ring hollow because I don't like the character.
No, that is not the problem. And I sort of want to try and clarify a bit more that I feel for Garibaldi. I can see that he is suffering and I feel for him, but I don't feel sorry for him.
What's the difference for you?
Because I think that he has it within his control to make things better, and he chooses not to. So I see it as, like, yes, this is an addiction, it is a disease, but he is denying help, and it's an active decision that he is making.
You know who you are? You're Lise, because that's her point of view. from what we've seen in the show previously. And I don't mean that as a joke. That's one of the more compelling aspects of their relationship that is deeply missing in terms of conversation. I wish the show would talk about that more often. She has vocalized it in some way, shape, or form, but it is a nuance to it as well, because there is a level of...
He chooses to run. We've seen him repeat this process throughout his life. He fucked up on Io, he left. He fucked up on Mars, he left. He's fucking up on Babylon 5, and
he's going to try and leave.
He's going to leave.
Babylon 5 really is unabashedly diving into the complexities of addiction issues. That's one of the things is it's not just saying, oh, poor boohoo Garibaldi, he's somehow fallen into this and he won't get out. There is a frustration there when you're on the sidelines, when you're seeing it happen. There is an anger there as well. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it is. There's a level of what you're talking about of like, I know you can try better than this. And yes, it is an addiction. Yes, it is a disease. And some people really can't. But like, we know for Garibaldi, he can, and yet also he has to struggle through as well. Like, we will see how the story goes for him from here on out, that other characters are going to take the same tact of like, these tricks don't work on me. I know what you're doing, and so do you. You can't hide behind this immature line of reasoning anymore. And that's what this episode is getting at, is he meets a figure from his past, somebody who knew him as this devil-may-care guy, and he's unaware that Garibaldi doesn't drink anymore.
Yeah,
and Garibaldi...
he missed sober Garibaldi.
And Garibaldi had an opportunity, and he almost acted out on it fully, of denying a drink. And
no,
then
because he was doing the performance, and then he was like, oh, I don't have to.
That, and I took it as when Tafik said, what? He realized, yeah, what am I doing this for? I can have a drink. I think it's a bit of both. And that's...
The fact that this show has built up this character enough to have that much meaning packed into like less than 10 seconds of the show is just a great reflection of the quality and like the caliber of Babylon 5.
This story isn't really about the Drazi secrety plot.
Really.
It is important for things later.
Yeah.
But the real heart of the matter is all of this thought about alcoholism. That's what it wants you to take away. It wants you to think about this. It wants you to chew on it. And it does it really well. Like, when you look at it strictly through that lens of this character study of a guy who's got everything. He's got everything. He's got a high-ranking job. He's got friends. He's got a girl back home. Like, he's secure. He's in prime real estate right now. But there are certain things that are there that he can't control, and those niggle at him more.
Yeah.
And it gets to him to a point in which he
fixates on it.
And the dominoes fall, and here we are watching him fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck up in a great way, where in a sci-fi sense, him fucking up is going to ensure an all-out war between multiple alien races. But on a human level, on an individualistic level, I look at him and say, I'm disappointed, man.
Yeah. I was angry, now I'm just disappointed. To also reflect what Sheridan goes on to say. And
it's sad. It's just sad.
At this point, I do want to acknowledge that my perspective on Garibaldi in this episode, I think, has been shifted because I watched ahead to the episode where he's confronted about his relapse into alcoholism by everybody, when Captain Lockley confronts Garibaldi, because I did that episode for the Last Best Babylon 5 podcast. So I do think that I'm probably empathizing a lot with those views because that's what the characters bring up later, and that's fresh in my mind.
Do you need medical assistance?
No. No, what I need is a guy with a claw hammer to whack me in the head real hard about 9 times. It's a long story. I'll tell you when I see you. Thanks to Lynn.
As stated, Jerry Doyle really played this to a T, and in real life, he did have alcohol problems.
Yeah,
ones that he did not admit to having. So
he's drawing on his own experiences.
And JMS is drawing literally upon Jerry Doyle.
And this episode, in particular, made me think about that. And thinking about a comment, I think it's from a commentary track that JMS did, where he's just like on one of the last days of shooting for like the finale, or like for one of the last ones that was in season 5, Jerry taking the shot glass
off the set as a little fuck you, I'm fine.
Like, fuck you, I'm not stopping.
Yeah, that it makes it tough with the Garibaldi story, because we know in real life what happened to Jerry Doyle, and that added realism to it, but it also makes it authentic.
Yes.
JMS, the writer, is getting something from the real world and incorporating it in there, and it just adds so much, rather than in season 1, when it was written by a guest writer for Survivors, it felt tropey. It just felt like, you know what alcoholism is. It's this, and this.
And that is all it is. And that is what it's like for every single person ever.
We're not at the ratings yet, but I just wanted to touch this right now because we're talking about it. Do you think there's more validity to the merit of an episode when we get into these conversations rather than when you're just having watched it? Because I think this is one in which, I guess you could say for us, we had to pull teeth to get this stuff, but it is all there. Yes. It is all there, but it's not as overwhelming as, say, other episodes that touch upon
accessible,
heady things or these themes. This one, I feel, is very subdued.
It works differently.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it because Jakar's plot, he doesn't have a plot necessarily. It is just he's being confronted by a shift of his status.
Yes.
And him having to come to terms with it.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that he needs guidance in that process. Because he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. And he's so clear about that. And he's frustrated without being angry at anybody, which is a sign of how much he's changed as a person.
I'm drawn to this because it's far more overt in what it's about. And I love Jakar, and I love Andreas's performance, and Marshall Teague as Talon is really spectacular. And there's a certain mode JMS gets into when he's writing about people's status, faith, spirituality, the perceptions of oneself that just ring so loud and just so profoundly. And Jakar, it's like 2 or 3 scenes realistically of him umming and ahhing about how his book has been published and everyone is looking to him as the new spiritual leader for their people, and he does not want to be the sole person for that. He does not want the message to be drowned out by himself. He does not want to become an idol. And that is the thing, but it's only a couple of scenes, and it just draws you in because we've seen Jakar become this religious figure over the course of the show. But even if you watch this episode in isolation, if this was the one you watched, it probably would make you lean forward in your seat because it's done so eloquently.
Yeah. It's striking. And you know what? A large part of it is on the actor. He breathes life into this.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. And Garibaldi's one is not.
No. And we don't have to have fun with something to like it.
No, but I do think that does play a factor in an episode for sure. And especially in one in which one plot is this fun, joyous, like, oh, this is a rip-roaring good time of seeing Jakar roll his eyes as he's being told he's a religious icon. And then to Garibaldi drinking himself to death. And yeah, I'm going to like the Jakar one a lot more because it makes me feel good and makes me contemplate things beyond myself. I will never be in the position Jakar is in.
No.
But I could easily be in the position Garibaldi is in.
Yes.
And not in terms of like, oh, I'm on a mission to Ajaz. No. You know what I'm saying. And that's deeply uncomfortable. And we've had problems with Garibaldi stories for reasons outside of this. And so I just wanted to draw that line in the sand a little bit more when we talk about the Jakar stuff, because this is all of the stuff we love about Jakar. He's funny, he's quippy, he's having to think about his place in the universe now. He gives the wonderful little speeches, he's bantering. It's everything you want. And you offset that with everything you don't want for Garibaldi. You don't want Garibaldi in his final moments in this show to succumb to the thing that fucked up his life before we met him.
Yeah. He's ruined his own life several times this way.
And yet,
here he is again.
And yet that's the meat of the drama in the season is the character stuff. As much as I love all of the big things with the Centauri war that's going to brew and the Drak and the Shadow Minions and the Telepath Colony and all of that, it's about the character stuff. So the Jakar thing doesn't need any more of the plot thingies to make it good. I know that this is weird, but I was in an argument a little while ago about what makes a good sci-fi, like what makes a good episode of a science fiction show. And there was a podcast I was listening to that really sparked this off, in which they were giving bad grades to an episode because it didn't have a sci-fi thing in it. Like this episode of Babylon 5 doesn't have like the sci-fi thingy. Like, it's set in space and there's aliens, but there's not like the big sci-fi thing like in a Star Trek.
Yeah, it's not a gimmick.
It's not driven by a science fiction concept like Voyager would be. Oh, this Voyager episode, they enter an area of space with no stars in it, and so there's little monsters that live in there. No. This is about Jakar in his room thinking about the implications of his philosophy and how it can affect others, and how will that change him as well as them. It's not just a one-way street. It's not just, oh, my book's been released and everyone's going to be cool. No, it's going to be, my book's released and everyone won't be cool, and I could also become corrupted by the allure of it all.
There is something that I really appreciate about the way that they do Jakar's character development, which is how a lot of the times when he's like faced with a challenge that he is confronting to him and requires him to change in one way or another, he feels like that challenge represents a step backwards. So with this one, he's just like, oh no, my book got out. Everybody's worshipping me. Like, this is not what I wanted. This is not what will help. But in accepting the challenge, he moves forward and he helps the Narn move forward. And he had that same thing almost like with his dust interactions with Londo and Kosh, where that felt like a real step backwards for him as a character, but it allowed him to make this leap forward.
It's not about teaching something. It's about unlearning hatred and unlearning fear. I am a warrior. I cannot teach them these things. But you can.
One of the things I was thinking about is Franklin resigns and he tells Sheridan about it, and Sheridan reacts in a very fun way in which
Bad boss.
No. He reacts like a real person boss.
Yeah.
Where he says, "This is great for you, but I won't deny I'm disappointed."
Yeah, like, this is bad for me. Good for you, bad for me.
But what it made me think of with this, Talon, Londo, so on and so forth, is there's a sense of friendship within this group of characters. That they can just share these barbs and just be with one another, and it feels like
they can be a person first and their job after that.
And
because they are friends.
And there's the nuance of friendship with Sheridan and Franklin, in which he lays it out. Hey, man, I'm glad that this is happening. It all makes sense professionally, logic-wise, it all makes sense, but I am disappointed because you're my friend and I want you to be here and I want us to work together.
Good at your job.
And you're damn good at your job, and yes, it makes sense, but it's also really annoying. And with Londo and Jakar, they're at that bickering stage where Londo's no longer insulted by Jakar, and Jakar's no longer insulted by Londo. And Franklin and Garibaldi, they have that strained relationship, but it's still there. And I was just reflecting upon it because it's not as if the show is explicitly telling us they're all friends. We just feel that. And there's just a certain, I don't know, ambience to it, a certain air to how older shows would capture
atmosphere, yeah.
How older shows would capture friendships within an ensemble cast. We really struggle with that with a lot of modern science fiction shows. When we covered, say, Strange New Worlds, we could understand how they could be friendly, but we're like, why is anyone, who's Ortegas? Who is she, and why is she friends with anyone, and why is anyone friends with her? She just flies a ship real good. And Discovery's a nightmare for that too, in which they tell us they're friends, but they don't actually show it to us. Well, Sheridan, he literally tells him that you're my friend, but he shows us that he's his friend by being snappy with him, by being what you call a bad boss moment. That actually showed me that he was his friend more than him actually saying, you're my friend.
Like, it's him being a bad boss because he's not being a boss in that moment. Like, Franklin has come to him as his friend and his superior, and Sheridan shows up as his friend.
And yet is still playing the, from a strategic point of view, this really sucks. But also it makes sense. Fuck you, Franklin. I just wanted to examine that a bit, because what is it about this series or others of this time that can just do this? It's not just that there's 22 episodes a season.
No, we go back to me saying it's about how you use your time, not how much you have.
And they use it for these quiet little details. It's not just plot. This scene with Franklin is a plot scene, but it's handled as if it's a character scene. Spotlights. No, not the film Spotlights.
Fuck you.
Not the film. No, Rachel, we're not covering the Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo classic film Spotlight.
Stop this right now.
I will stop. I'm stopping the podcast to do the spotlight section in which we talk about an actor or actress that appeared in the episode, go over their performance, anything we've seen them in, pieces of trivia that we may have got along the way, and we are going over the actor who played Tafik.
Yes.
Yes, Tafik himself, of course. Who else would it have been?
Because we've done Talon.
We've already done Talon. Yes, we are going to be talking about the actor of Tafik, who is John Castellanos.
He had fun.
Yeah.
He had fun here.
Oh,
He rocked up for a paycheck and he had fun.
yes, he did. I think that this guy is one of the sexiest
This is the real reason.
actors they've ever got on the show.
Ooh, yeah.
He's so fucking good looking, man. He's just rugged. He has the beard, he has the little, he's doing an accent, like everything about this guy. He comes in and just says, I have not yum yum energy, but big dick energy. Like this guy's a fucking cad. He's a cad and a catch. We've had a lot of hunky and sexy people on B5, but
he's like a timeless sexy. Like Australian man from season 1, like of one of his eggs.
yeah, he was 90s.
Thinks he's as sexy as this.
Oh yeah.
He thinks he's sexy as this, and he ain't close. He ain't close.
Because he had slime to him.
Yeah.
This guy's like a sleazy, like, you know, former Garibaldi associate, blah, blah, blah. But he's just so damn charismatic.
Yes!
I don't know how they pull it off, some of these actors. It's not just his looks, but the way he holds himself, his line deliveries, his rapport with Jerry
the
Doyle.
whole package.
He is here purely for exposition. He's here purely to establish Garibaldi's problem so that he can be the temptation for it, then the eventual success of Garibaldi's temptation. He's not much of a character, but you get a good actor and there's no such thing as a small part. And John, he fucking hits it out of the park.
Elevates it. He really does, and not just because he's sexy.
He's a good guy. That's the thing. You feel like even though Tafik, in a way, has helped enable Garibaldi, he doesn't really know that, but even if he did, I still feel like, this Tafik guy, he's a good guy.
Hey,
he's a good guy.
You should still know him enough to know that he has a problem, but maybe Tafik does as well.
Who cares? We're here to do a job, and there's a laser pointer. I adored when he pointed out that Garibaldi's hair situation has changed since he's seen him last. Like, hey, what happened to all your hair? That's a very meta joke. That's a very haha, but he delivers it with grace, delivers it with ease, feels real. That's the statement. Feels real.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I haven't seen you in a while, so there's been a big change in your appearance. And jab, jab. It's funny because you went bald.
Have you seen this actor in anything before? He doesn't have the longest IMDb, 25 credits.
16 of those acting. I do not think I've seen him in anything. I know some of the other things that he's in. Obviously, heard of K9. Been forced to sit through episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful and the Young and the Restless.
Those are the things. So he's a soap opera actor, not unusual, unexpected. No. They get soap opera actors in B5 because they are good at learning lines and they can capture a character.
It makes sense that he got cast in
this.
In soap operas because he is damn fun.
He started off with The Bold and the Beautiful. Now, to answer the question, I have not seen him in a single thing outside of this series, unfortunately. So he was in The Bold and the Beautiful for a little while, about 17 episodes. He played a district attorney.
Yeah.
And The Bold and the Beautiful is also something he has written episodes for.
Yeah.
But later. So when he did The Bold and the Beautiful, it was in the late 80s. When he wrote for it was in the early 2000s.
Yeah, he went away, went to Young and Restless, went back as a writer.
there's a connection to The Bold and the Beautiful that he has outside of his acting work, which is
his ex-wife.
His ex-wife is a producer.
Current was his wife at the time.
Yes, his current ex-wife. She is a producer of The Bold and the Beautiful, like fucking thousands of episodes worth of Bold and the Beautiful she has been a part of. And so they may have met during that, or the paths have crossed along the way.
Yes.
But a lot of soap opera acting, so only a bit of Bold and the Beautiful. And then he did a stint of just one-off stuff, like he was in K9, the film, just in a little role. He was in Miami Vice, Silk Stockings, Teen Angel, Babylon 5, Jag. Like, he does the one-and-done things until he gets the job on The Young and the Restless, in which he did hundreds of episodes. And that's how it is with a lot of these soap opera actors, and we've seen it on this series in which
spot eventually
they get their role, and then everything outside of that role is just one-off gigs because, well, I've got my main thing.
You haven't got time to do other things when you're a regular on a soap.
You are a choice hunk.
That's always what I've aspired to be, a choice hunk.
He has not only done acting on the screen, he has written things, as mentioned. He did just episodes of Bold and the Beautiful, but he's produced stuff.
Oh, I was hoping to surprise you with his producer credit.
I looked at the thumbnails and I saw way too many cowboys, and I said, "Hello."
That is not the one that
I know the one as well, Rach. Don't you think I didn't see that straight away? Can we talk about the cowboys first?
I meant to do the research.
I just did the IMDb stuff, baby. Can we talk about the cowboys first, and then you can talk about that? He has produced in total 5 things.
Yep.
And most of them are cowboy movies. One of which he starred in, Mexican Gold, he's in. Yep. All of these are cowboy films, westerns, sleazy, low rent, like it has an actor of some note in it, like of previous.
Designed for profit.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, oh, look, there's this actor in it.
We will put money into one thing. And we will do a western because they're cheap and fast to write.
And and we have a director who will direct them, and so here you go. You'll see Billy Zane is in one of them. It's like, oh yeah, Billy Zane, star of Titanic. Oh, I guess that's okay then. I just find it so interesting that there's so many cowboy films. He produced things from like mid-2000s right up until 20...
it wasn't like just a one thing, like one time he was just like, you know what, I'm going to go all in on being a producer. It's just like, okay.
Just for 5 years though. For 5 years he did that and then just stopped in 2009.
Yeah. So it's like, I'll one a year. One a year. But the one that stood out to me, I saw the thumbnail and I was just like, that really looks like a Saw ripoff.
Oh, okay.
And then I looked at the title and I was just like, oh dear Lord.
Say it.
Somebody had this idea, got money, got actors.
You say actors.
Got it made. They're performers.
Oh, yeah, thank you. They're artists.
Got it edited. Got it released.
Look, you say that. I have no evidence of any of those things actually occurring. There's no evidence that this thing's edited or even released. Say its name, Rachel. Say its name. Release the evil onto us all.
Porn shoot massacre.
Yeah, he produced the porn. That's just it. He's like Morden. Remember when Ed Wasser produced and was in like a softcore porn? From what I can tell, Porn Shoot Massacre is just a real porn.
Yeah.
And it's just the only one in his career. It's just like he decided, I'll do one. It's not like Dan Randall, the actor who played Dan Randall, where he had a career in porn before just regular acting.
And this was in 2009.
Yeah, he's already been around the block in the industry. I went to his social media pages because I wanted to know what he looks like now, and I wanted to know what he was. Oh yeah, porn shoot massacres.
Unlucky girls are about to experience a film shoot where they play real life victims in a real life horror film.
Sure.
So I can't tell if it's just porn or not.
As I was saying before you started to read the synopsis, I looked at his social media presence because I wanted to know what he's up to now. I wanted to see what he looks like now. He still looks great, still looks handsome. He looks better with the beard. He goes on and off with the beard. Stick with the beard, I would say. He confuses me. So he still says he's acting. He still says he's doing work. I imagine theater work. But all of his social media stuff is like spam or spam like stuff where it's just him sharing random gibberish nonsense. But it's not as if it's like, oh, you know, your old relative who has a social media account, they share any old thing. It really does come across as what you see in a lot of Facebook social media pages, in which when they're not run for a while, some entity has taken it over just to pump out random clickbait nonsense garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what his social media is like.
Yeah, I had a look as well, and I was just like, what is this? Like, this does not seem
but
like fully fake, but it doesn't seem fully real either.
At some point around 2020, it's like the real him running this, or of whoever was running it, stopped. Because at some point, he was just posting like a regular page would, updates and things he's watching, things he's doing, things that he did find funny, like, I'll share this clip, with comments. But after a certain point in 2020, went on pause for a bit, and then it became this. And I don't know if it's just he's a case of like he's an older person on Facebook and social media who just uses it like that. But it does come across to me as some entity got it.
Update, Ryan. I did a little bit more digging, and it appears it's not straight up porn, just softcore. So full frontal nudity.
No penetration.
Like titties, but
puss.
Well, I'm assuming
that's full frontal.
It's female full frontal.
Again, he's not in this. He just produced it.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I think we can shut the book on some perv's face with that.
Thank you. And we can close down the spotlight now, because that's the majority of it. It doesn't seem like he's had too many crazy shenanigans that I could find online. Anything on your end other than those things?
No, just producer of some softcore porn.
When you say some, just one, and the rest is cowboy films. Like, that's the thing.
Hey. Lots of people claim that westerns are like softcore porn for gay men. So
I don't think it works exactly like that, but sure. I'm going to put on my cowboy hat and shoot my guns in the air in defiance of your statements.
Okay. I'm just saying we don't know how much ass is in those cowboy movies.
On a scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good, where are we going with the ragged edge? Where are we falling? What side of the yum border are we going to be on? There's no half yums.
Squarely in yum.
It's a yum.
Let's hear what next week's episode is about, according to JMS, who, helpfully typed up a little summary for each episode that went into the booklets.
On an all-new Babylon 5.
Episode lucky number 13, The core is mother, the core is father. An inside look at Psy-Core, Bester's hunt for an unstable telepath trainee who's on a mind-shattering death spree, sheds light on the policies and practices of the mysterious brain power cops. Rachel?
Brain power. Brain power.
Well, my brain just got overpowered by you, and it is overpowered by the discussion we just had on The Ragged Edge. It's a great title for an episode. It doesn't match the episode in the way of when you hear that, you're expecting shit to hit the fan in a way that this doesn't. I like it as a title, not for this episode. I wouldn't call this episode The Ragged Edge. I would call it something like what one of the other episodes has, like Meditations on the Abyss is an episode that we're going to watch in a couple from now. But this is a very meditative episode, very contemplating of the world around us. And you can stop everything you're doing right now and follow us on your social media of choice under YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. We are also on all of those podcasting sites, those platforms, as well as YouTube. So if you are not following us, if you're not subscribed, if you're not listening to the pod through all of those means, why not do it?
If you
coward.
need directions on how to do that, or if you just have a question, you can email us at yumyumpod@gmail.com. And if you want to hear even more discussions from us, we actually mentioned that we do the Expanse over on Patreon first already, but, now you're at the end of this episode, and the link to the Patreon's just conveniently in the description. So, maybe go check it out.
Yeah, whatever. Check it out. There's so much stuff on our Patreon. The Expanse, we talk about Star Trek Picard, we talk about the X-Men movies, RoboCop, we give our thoughts on a lot of different pieces of media. We have a group Discord. It's a rowdy bunch over there, but it's a good old time. So thank you so much for tuning in, listening, giving us your time and your support. We appreciate it. It means the world to us. Jakar was here. Being too spiritual to bang his chest and say good evening to you. Coward, fool, JMS, bring it back. Bring it back. It wasn't in the road home. I was crying with anger when I saw the road home because he didn't say good evening to you.
Even Talon could have said it. They could have said it to each other.
Yeah, then you can establish it is a Narn thing, not just a Jakar thing.